You are now listening to Deadly Little Final Girls, PLL Slasher Book 1. Content warning, graphic violence, drug use, sexual situations, and self-harm themes. This isn't just a story, it's a funeral with a mandatory dress code, and honey, you're the entertainment. Welcome to the ultimate reckoning, where the secrets are more toxic than the industrial bleach used to scrub the blood off a locker room floor. In Hollow Creek, the survival rate is plummeting faster than a nobody in a cold open, and the only thing filthier than the town's history is Kelly's reputation. Buckle up, Buttercup, class is in session, and I don't give extra credit for screaming. The Hall of Fame, or the bitches who wouldn't die. Tiara, you want to know the difference between a victim and a legend? It's the Hall of Fame. The girls who didn't get gutted before the popcorn even finished. Ashley, like Sydney Prescott, the professional survivor who turned her PTSD into a legacy. Honestly, being stabbed and chased for 30 years and still keeping her hair that perfect? That's the real supernatural horror. She's the blueprint for surviving on spite alone. Kelly, or Sally Hardesty, the pioneer of the screaming in the back of a pickup truck aesthetic. No plan, no weapon, just pure lung capacity and the sheer audacity to not be dinner. She proved you don't need a strategy if you can just outlast the monster. Courtney, I prefer Nancy Thompson. She was the only one smart enough to realize that if a man in a blade glove is haunting your dreams, you don't call a therapist, you build a trap. She was tactical. She made the killer play by her rules. Tiara, what about Maxine Minx? She refuses to accept a supporting role in her own massacre. She's got the ambition of a CEO and the survival instincts of a cockroach. She's not going to be a victim. She's going to be a star, even if she has to bury everyone else to get to the top. Zaria, being a true final girl isn't about the scream. It's about being the last one standing when the credits roll. It's about following the rules of survival or becoming another fatal end on a news report. We aren't just girls in a small town anymore. We're the ones who have to rewrite the rules. The interruption. Reality check. The girls' phones all buzz simultaneously. A video file is sent to the group chat. It's a grainy shot of them through the window. Right now. The masked killer. Voice distorted and dripping with sarcasm. Aw, how cute. You're comparing yourselves to the classics? Let's get one thing straight, girls. Sydney and Nancy were in movies. You're in a slasher. Sydney Prescott had a stunt double. You just have a high pain tolerance and a lot of luck. And luck runs out. You think you're tactical like Nancy? She died in a hospital bed. You think you're ambitious like Maxine? Ambition just makes the blood flow faster. Those girls had to be continued screens. There are no sequels for girls whose heads are on pikes. They wore designer clothes to their finales. You'll be wearing a toe tag to yours. Class is officially in session, and the first lesson is, nobody stays pretty once they're dismantled. Chapter 0, the prologue. The air in the Hollow Creek High Gymnasium didn't smell like floor wax or school spirit anymore. It smelled like copper and old sins. Zaria stood in the center of the dark court, her eyes fixed on the rafters. Beside her, Tiara was trembling so hard the lens of her camera rattled against her chest. The tool she'd used to record it now felt like a lead weight. Ashley was whispering a prayer that sounded like a bargain, while Courtney stood eerily still, her gaze locked on the shadows where their dark past waited. We did what we had to do, Kelly said, her voice sharp and defensive, as if trying to convince herself. She stepped into the center of the circle, looking like a natural leader, a girl the audience would expect to be a final girl until the very end. She left us no choice. We stay together, and we don't say a word about that night. Not to the police, not to anyone. They were the queens of cruelty, the malicious orchestrators of a game that had finally turned deadly. The first drop of the bloody rain hit Zarya's forehead. Then the deluge began. "It's happening," Courtney whispered as the crimson soaked into their clothes. The reckoning. Above them, something shifted in the rafters. Kelly looked up, her eyes wide, still wearing the face of a survivor who hasn't realized she's already a victim. She didn't see the figure stepping out from behind the bleachers, his human skin mask pale and stretched in the emergency lights. "Kelly, move!" Zarya screamed, but the toxic secrets they shared had already grown teeth. As the killer raised the rusted blade, the girls were left with the weight of what they had done. They had played at being monsters, but now a real monster had come to collect the debt. The prank was over. The retribution had arrived. The unknown, the finale. It didn't start with a scream, it started with a drop. A single, heavy splash of crimson hit Zarya's cheek, warm and metallic. Then came another, and another. She looked up into the dark sky, but she couldn't see the clouds, only the rhythmic, suffocating patter of red falling from the ceiling of the world. Her dress was ruined, soaked through until it clung to her skin like a second, scarlet layer. She was a survivor, a leader, but in this moment, she was just a girl drowning in the consequences of a lie. From the darkness, a sound emerged, a wet, dragging noise followed by a muffled, rhythmic thump-thump. It wasn't a heartbeat, it was the sound of something being pulled across the floorboards. "It's not stopping," she whispered to the shadows, her voice trembling. "It's never going to stop." Chapter 1, Pilot. The corridors of cowardice. Hollow Creek High always smelled the same in October, heavy floor wax and cheap perfume. For Zarya, the morning started like any other Tuesday, but there was a sharp, restless energy humming through the halls. She could feel it before she even saw them. Kelly was exactly where she always was, dead center of the main corridor, surrounded by the girls who made Zarya feel like she finally mattered. Tiara, Courtney, and Ashley were already leaning in, their heads bobbing as Kelly whispered something that made them all smirk. They weren't just a friend group, they were a fortress. "There she is," Kelly said as Zarya approached, her eyes glinting with a mean sort of hunger. She didn't waste time. "We're doing it today. We're finally going to show Angela White exactly where she sits in the food chain." A cold knot tied itself in Zarya's stomach. She knew she should say something, should probably just turn around and walk to class, but the thought of being left outside that circle was scarier than whatever Kelly had planned. Zarya just nodded, forcing a smile she didn't feel. Bleak. The cafeteria air felt heavy, smelling of stale grease and floor cleaner. The girls didn't just walk up to Angela, they closed in like a pack of dogs that had finally cornered something weak. Angela was shaking. It wasn't a small tremble, it was a full-body shudder. Her eyes were fixed on the floor, but she couldn't hide the dark, wet stain spreading across the crotch of her heather gray sweatpants. It was deep, visceral, and impossible to ignore. A sharp, jagged sob escaped Angela's throat. She looked like she wanted to melt into the linoleum. Tiara didn't flinch. She adjusted her grip on her phone, her eyes scanning the scene like she was looking through a viewfinder. She leaned into Kelly's ear, her voice a low, excited hiss. "The food is a joke, Kel. It's too high school. Look at her. She's already falling apart. If we want this to stick, we don't just throw lunch, we help her." Kelly's lips twisted into a smile that didn't reach her eyes. She reached into a greasy pizza box, peeling off a cold, leathery circle of pepperoni. With a flick of her wrist, it hit Angela's forehead with a wet slap. "Stop leaking, Angela, it's embarrassing, Kelly sneered. Her voice wasn't loud, which made it meaner. You're dripping tragedy all over the floor. Consider this a makeover for someone who clearly can't afford a CVS run. Then, the first tampon hit. It bounced off Angela's shoulder and rolled across the floor. Then another, and another. The plastic applicators clattered like hailstones against the lockers. Plug it up, Angela. Courtney laughed, her voice bouncing off the high ceilings. She kicked a stray tampon toward Angela's sneakers with the toe of her designer boots. It's honestly offensive that we have to breathe the same air as you when you're this messy. Tiara stepped into Angela's personal space, her aim surgical. She pelted Angela's face with a handful of tampons and a slice of cold, oily meat that caught in Angela's matted hair. Smile. You've never been this popular, have you? You should be thanking us. Zaria watched, her stomach turning. A tampon dangled from Angela's hair like a grotesque ornament, stuck there by the pepperoni grease. The girls weren't just pranking her, they were feeding on her. They looked beautiful, polished, and completely rabid. Under the harsh, flickering fluorescent lights, Zaria realized a terrifying truth. In Hollow Creek, you were either the one throwing the stones, or the one being buried by them. The suspension and the stain. The air in Principal Miller's office was stagnant, filled with the hum of a cheap desk fan and the scratch of his pen. Zaria couldn't stop looking at the pepperoni grease under her fingernails. Beside her, Kelly wasn't even pretending to be sorry. She sat slumped in the plastic chair, legs crossed, scrolling through her phone until Miller slammed a folder onto the desk to get her attention. A few days of ISS, is that it? Kelly asked, finally looking up. She let out a bored sigh and tucked a strand of hair behind her ear. I have a track meet on Friday. Can we speed this along? Miller didn't look angry. He looked disgusted. The track meet is the last of your concerns, Kelly. You're all in ISS for the next week. Effective 10 minutes ago. He leaned over the desk, his eyes stopping on Zaria. He didn't give a grand speech about survival. He just looked at her like she was a disappointment. You think being popular is going to keep the world from chewing you up, Zaria? It won't. You're just a name on a suspension slip today. Next time, it'll be a police report. The dinner table, a house of glass. Dinner at the Vanderbilt's house was usually a silent affair, but tonight the air felt like a held breath. The only sound was the scrape of Freddie's knife against his plate. He hadn't touched his steak. Instead, he was staring at the crumpled suspension slip on the table as if it were a personal insult. A week, Kelly. He didn't yell. He just hissed it, his voice low and vibrating with a familiar, ugly rage. I spent a fortune keeping your reputation spotless, and you go and get locked in a booth like some gutter trash hoodlum. Kelly didn't even stop chewing. She swallowed slowly, then shoved her chair back with a screech that set everyone's teeth on edge. You pay for a lot of things, Dad, but you don't own me. And don't look at me like that. If you touch me, I'm calling the firm. I'll make sure the divorce lawyers get high-res photos of every mark. Freddie's hand tightened around the handle of his steak knife, his knuckles turning white. Morgan's glass shattered as she dropped it, her hand shaking as she scrambled to get between them. Freddie, please, just leave it. As Freddie shoved past them and slammed the front door, the house felt even smaller. Kelly turned her gaze toward her mother, her eyes cold and clinical. You're pathetic, Mom. Look at you, shaking over a dropped glass. You're always talking about surviving that massacre, but honestly, I think the killer just skipped you because you weren't worth the breath. The sedan, a fatal end to romance. Later that night, the interior of Eric's sedan was a tomb of fogged glass and the heavy, metallic scent of sex. The act was raw, a frantic, grinding collision. Kelly was draped over the back seat, her silk top shoved up, her breasts swinging with every violent jolt of the car's suspension. Eric was buried deep, his dick slick with her heat, the leather upholstery soaked and groaning beneath them. He hammered into her with a rhythmic, desperate thud, his balls slapping against her with a wet, heavy sound. "My dad is a pathetic sociopath," Kelly gasped, her nails carving red tracks down Eric's back. "I'll never be weak like my mother. I'll never let anyone haunt me." Eric slowed, his body tensing as he pulled back. His dick slid out with a wet sloop, glistening and dripping onto the seat. "Kelly, you can't keep doing this," he whispered. "The bullying, it's wrong. You can't blame your parents for how you treat people." Kelly sat up, her eyes flashing with a sudden, dark heat. She looked at him with pure disgust. "You're lecturing me? You?" She laughed, a sound like breaking glass. "Honestly, Eric, for someone who talks so much game, you're remarkably small. Your dick doesn't even make me moan. I've been faking it since the first time we got in this backseat, just so I wouldn't have to hear you cry. You're a dumbass public school nobody who's lucky I even let you breathe my air. You're a placeholder, a warm body, and you'll never be anything in life but a loser in a rusted-out car." She slammed the car door, leaving him in a humiliated silence as she walked toward her house. The blueprint of sin. The basement was a haze of vanilla smoke and the rhythmic, metallic groan of the leather. On the TV, The Hills Have Eyes provided a soundtrack of desert wind and jagged screams, but Tiara was focused on the friction. She was straddled over Justin, her fingers tangled in his hair as her hips ground down in a slow, punishing roll. In the blue flicker of the screen, her sweat-slicked skin looked like marble. Justin's hands clamped onto her ass, spreading her as he thrust up to meet her with raw, aggressive force. The wet, rhythmic slap of their bodies matched the frantic thudding of her heart. A sharp trill cut the air. Kelly flashed on the phone. "Don't stop," Tiara panted, grabbing the device. Justin gripped her waist, driving his cock deeper with a relentless pace that made her vision blur. "I'm still seeing red," Kelly hissed through the speaker. "A week of ISS because that rat Angela went to Miller. She thinks she won." Tiara arched her back, a sharp moan catching in her throat as Justin hit the spot that made her walls clench around him like a vice. "She wants to be a victim," Tiara managed, her voice thick and breathy. "Let's give her a reason. Prom, we do it Carrie style. A bucket, the rafters, and enough pig blood to drown her." Kelly's dark laugh crackled. "Evil genius," adding the girls. The screen flickered with Courtney and Ashley's faces. "Prom is the move," Kelly announced. "Justin, we need the real stuff from the farm." Cold and thick, Justin leaned into the frame, a predatory smirk on his lips as he buried his face in Tiara's shoulder, his balls slapping against her with every hard, punishing thrust. "I can get you as many gallons as you need," he murmured, his hands guiding her hips for another deep roll. "Old Church on the Creek," Kelly ordered. "We meet there tonight." "Tiara, text Zaria, tell her something happened to Angela. We need her to pull the trigger." "Done," Tiara gasped, typing the lie with one hand while her pussy gripped him in one final, toe-curling contraction. The call died. The phone hit the floor. Tiara looked down at Justin, her eyes dark and wild. "Now, finish it." Justin flipped her onto her back, pinning her against the leather, and drove into her with everything he had, sealing the pact in the shadow of the blood they just promised to spill. The late-night whisper. Zaria sat on the edge of her bed, the only light in her room coming from the erratic flicker of a dying lamp. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw it, the way a single slice of pepperoni had caught in Angela's hair, the way the girl's sob had sounded, thick and wet. The high of being in Kelly's inner circle had evaporated, leaving behind a cold, sick weight in her gut. She caught her reflection in the vanity mirror and looked away. She looked exactly like what she was, a coward who had stood there and watched because she was too afraid to be the one on the floor. She was reaching to turn out the light when her phone buzzed on the nightstand. The vibration felt like an electric shock. "Tiara, we need to talk." I just saw Angela. She's not okay. Zaria's heart thudded against her ribs. It wasn't just the words, it was the fact that Tyara, who usually treated everything like a joke, sounded genuinely rattled. A week of suspension felt like nothing now. That text was a warning that whatever they had started in the gym hadn't ended when the bell rang. It was out there, growing into something they couldn't control. The conclave in the crypt. The old church sat on the edge of Hollow Creek like a rotting tooth. Under the flat, gray October sky, the whole place looked abandoned, but the flickering light in the basement window said otherwise. Zaria hesitated at the entrance, her hand hovering over the heavy oak door. The wood was cold and damp, and the wind whistling through the stone archway sounded too much like a person crying. She hated this place. It smelled of wet dust and old incense, and it made everything they said feel heavier and uglier. Pushing the door open, she winced as the hinges groaned, the sound echoing through the empty pews. She was late, and in this group, being late was a dangerous way to get Kelly's attention. The prom surprise. The only light came from the basement's single bare bulb, throwing long, jagged shadows against the stone walls. The girls were huddled in the corner, their faces lit by the blue ghost glow of Tyara's phone. "Look who decided to show up," Tiara said, not looking up from the screen. "Another 5 minutes and we were going to start the vote to kick you out." Bus was late, Zaria lied, her voice echoing too loudly in the small space. "What's going on? Why are we in a basement?" Kelly stepped out of the shadows, her arms crossed. She didn't look like a friend. She looked like an interrogator. "We're finishing what we started in the gym. Angela needs a grand finale, and we're giving it to her at prom." Zaria's stomach did a slow roll. "Prom? Kelly? She's barely even coming to school lately. Just leave her alone." "We're going to drench her," Kelly said, her voice dropping to a whisper that felt like ice. "Pig's blood." Right when they announced the court, "It'll be the only thing anyone ever remembers about her." Courtney let out a sharp, dry laugh. "It's iconic. It's like Carrie, but better, because it's happening to her." That's a lot, isn't it?" Zaria looked around at the others, hoping for a flicker of doubt. "It's mean, even for us. Don't start with the good girl act, Zaria. It's boring," Ashley snapped, though she was twisting a loose thread on her sweater. "She's already a joke. We're just giving the joke a punchline." Kelly stepped into Zaria's personal space, her eyes locking on. "Eric is going to ask her. She'll think it's her Cinderella moment, and then, bam. Are you in, Zaria? Or are you going to be the one we're dumping blood on next?" The silence in the basement was suffocating. Zaria looked at their faces, pretty, cold, and hungry for a spectacle. She felt the choice sticking in her throat like a stone. "Fine," Zaria whispered, "I'm in." As they went back to whispering about gallon counts and timing, Zaria realized she wasn't just part of the group anymore. She was an accomplice. Chapter 2. The Pressure Cooker. The twerk protest. The air in the ISS room was a toxic blend of cheap vanilla hairspray, unwashed gym clothes, and the skunky sweet smell of whatever Courtney had shoved in her sock. At the front of the room, Mrs. Higgins, a woman with a face like a slapped hand left out in the sun, slammed a wooden ruler against her desk. "Silence," she barked. "One more sound and I'm adding another day to your sentence." The second Higgins turned her back, Tiara was out of her seat. She bent over, hoisting 2 middle fingers and aggressively shaking her ass at the woman's head in a silent, vengeful twerk. Courtney didn't even notice. She was staring at the linoleum, her pupils blown wide enough to see the future as she tried to pick up imaginary pieces of glitter from the floor with focused, trembling fingers. Across the aisle, Ashley was scrolling through a dating app with a look of pure physical pain. A 42-year-old entrepreneur named Brad. His bio says he's an alpha male, but he's wearing a fedora in his profile pic. Ashley muttered. "Choices, Brad. Terrible ones." Kelly was ignoring all of them, meticulously layering gloss onto her lips in a compact mirror. Zarya sat stiffly between them, her pen flying across a history worksheet just to avoid looking at any of them. "I can't believe we're in this dungeon because of that girl," Kelly whispered, her voice a sharp, expensive hiss. "My skin is literally breaking out from the oxygen in here. It's poverty adjacent." Zarya didn't look up. "Maybe don't do the crime if you can't handle the time, Kel. Simple as that." "Shut up, Z," Tiara whispered, dropping back into her seat, breathless. She leaned in. "But for real though, the tampons in the locker room? That was a lot. Even for us. It was your idea," Kelly snapped, her eyes cutting toward Tiara. "You're the one who wouldn't stop talking about Carrie. I didn't think you were actually gonna go through with it," Tiara hissed back. "Now I'm sitting here thinking my karma is gonna be tragic. I'm low-key stressed." Suddenly, Courtney's chair started rattling. She was vibrating, her eyes darting around the room like she was watching invisible flies. She leaned over and started intensely inspecting the leg of Zarya's chair. Kelly cut a look of pure disgust. "Bitch, are you high right now, you hell whore?" "No." Courtney's teeth actually chattered, though her face was perfectly blank. It's cold in here. My bones are shivering, Kelly. I can hear them." "Bitch, no it's not," Tiara muttered. "It's 80 degrees in this room. Relax before Higgins sees your eyes." Kelly slammed her compact shut with a loud crack. "I don't give a fuck if you're tripping, but you better not be high during prom. You cannot mess up our pig blood prank." Zarya's pen stopped moving. She felt the coldness of the room for real this time. "So you're serious about this? For real? For real? This isn't a movie, Kelly. We need a final girl type to lead her to the slaughter," Kelly said, leaning into Zarya's space. "You agreed at the church. No backing out now, Z." Kelly sighed, looking at her reflection. And it's bad enough I have to ask Eric Sass for a favor. I have to get him to ask the girl to the dance. I hate him, but I still love him or whatever. It's a struggle." Zarya flinched, thinking about the text Eric had sent her last night while he was supposedly on the phone with Kelly. "Fine," Zarya finally whispered, the word tasting like lead. "Good," Tiara said, though she looked uneasy. "Because if Angela starts killing us with some ghost powers after this, don't tell me I told you so. I've seen how this ends. The mean girls always get the chainsaw." Kelly didn't even acknowledge her. She just turned toward the window, an evil, predatory smile spreading across her face. She watched the students outside like she was looking straight through them, already imagining the chaos to come. "It's about to be epic." Jock and the Queen Bee. The gym was mostly dark, the only light coming from the flickering high beams of the parking lot outside. Eric stood by the bleachers, looking down at his shoes while Kelly paced in front of him. "I need you to ask someone to prom," Kelly said. She didn't look at him, she was busy checking her nails. "Angela. That girl from the locker room." Eric's head snapped up. "Angela? The one you and Tiara are always messing with? Why would I even do that?" "Because it's a joke, Eric. God, don't be so slow." She stepped into his space, her hand sliding up his chest. "Imagine the look on her face when she gets in the middle of the dance and we douse her. It's going to be iconic. Everyone's gonna be talking about it for years." Eric shifted, his sneakers squeaking against the polished wood floor. "I don't know, Kel. That's low-key messed up, even for you. She's already weird. Why pick on her?" Kelly laughed, and the sound echoed off the empty walls like a slap. "Don't tell me you're getting a conscience now. You want to be a loser? Or you want to be with me? Just tell her she deserves a fairy tale or some bullshit. She's so desperate she'll believe whatever you say." Eric swallowed hard. He looked at the exit, then back at Kelly. He hated the idea, but the way she was looking at him, like he was the only thing that mattered, made his stomach flip in a way he couldn't control. "Fine," he muttered, shoving his hands into his pockets. "I'll ask her, but if this blows up in our faces, I'm saying it was your idea." "Of course you will, baby," Kelly smirked. Without another word, Eric turned and walked away, his footsteps heavy and echoing. Kelly watched his back, the smirk growing until it was a full, predatory grin. "I knew you'd cave," she whispered into the empty gym. The secret stairwell, the tension. Before lunch, Zarya ducked into the back stairwell by the theater wing. The air was stale and smelled like floor wax, but it was the only place the eyes of the school couldn't follow. Eric was already there, pacing the small landing like a caged animal. The second he saw her, the energy in the space shifted. He stepped into her bubble, pinning her against the brick wall. He didn't touch her, but he was close enough that Zarya could smell his cologne mixed with the sweat from practice. "Zarya," he said, his voice low and ragged. "I meant what I said in that text. For real. Kelly is out of control. The way she's been talking about Angela, the way she treats you like you're some kind of assistant, I'm over it." Zarya felt her heart do a slow roll in her chest, but she kept her face guarded. She wasn't about to be the other girl in some messy drama if she could help it. "Eric, stop. You're her man. You need to be saying this to her, not me. I'm only with her because I'm scared of the wreckage she'll leave behind if I'm not," Eric hissed, his hand slamming against the brick next to her ear. The sound echoed up the stairs. "You're the one I'm checking for at 2 in the morning, Z, not her. Just give me the word. Tell me to tell her no about this prom prank, and I'll shut it all down right now." Zarya looked at him, really looked at him. She wanted to say it. She wanted to tell him to drop Kelly and pick her, but she knew how this story ended. She pictured Kelly's face, that cold, predatory smile, and knew that if she crossed that girl, her life in this town would be over before the weekend. She put her hands on his chest and pushed him back, just enough to get some air. She had to be the smart one, even if it hurt. "Ask her, Eric," Zarya said, her voice steady even though her hands were shaking. "If you don't, she's gonna know something is up. I'm not about to be the reason she burns this whole school down. Just do what she says and keep your head down." The asking and the dread. The cafeteria was a mess of noise, the heavy smell of burned pizza dough, the screech of chairs, and the constant roar of 500 kids trying to be heard over each other. Sunlight cut through the high windows, hitting the grease on the trays and making the whole room feel sweatier than it was. In the corner booth, Eric sat with the group, but his eyes were glued to a table by the back exit. Angela was there, sitting alone, picking at a piece of pizza like she was trying to find a reason not to eat it. "Go on," Kelly whispered, nudging him under the table. "Don't be a bitch about it. Just go." Eric stood up, his legs feeling like lead. He walked across the room, feeling Kelly's eyes, and probably Zarya's, too, burning into the back of his neck. He pulled out the chair across from Angela. "Hey, Angela," he said, trying to keep his voice from cracking. "You mind if I sit?" Angela looked up, her eyes wide behind her glasses. She looked like she was waiting for the punchline. "Eric? Yeah, sure. Look, I know this is random," he started, rubbing the back of his neck. "But prom is next week and I've been thinking, maybe you'd want to go with me, as my date." Angela's face went from pale to a deep, blotchy red in 3 seconds. She didn't smile, she looked genuinely confused. "With you? But why?" Eric felt the sweat start to prickle on his forehead. "I just think you deserve a good time, you know? Get dressed up, forget about the bullshit at school for one night." Angela looked down at her tray, her fingers twisting a napkin into a tight rope. "My mom, she doesn't really let me do stuff like that. She says the world outside is too much. She's real strict about me being out late. We can figure that out, Eric pressed, feeling the pressure from Kelly's table. Just tell her you're with a group of friends. I can pick you up a block away, whatever you need. There was a long silence where the only sound was the thud of a basketball in the nearby gym. Finally, Angela looked back up at him. There was a tiny, heartbreaking spark of hope in her eyes. I've never even had a dress, she whispered, her voice so low Eric had to lean in. I always watched the movies and thought, maybe one day, it would be nice to feel normal for once. Eric felt a massive surge of relief, but it was immediately followed by a sick, heavy weight in his gut. He glanced back at the popular table. Kelly was leaning against the wall, a sharp, predatory smile on her face as she whispered something to Tiara. Cool, Eric muttered, his voice hollow. It's a date then. The confined spirit. Angela burst through the front door, her chest heaving, a frantic sort of joy making her lightheaded. Mom, you're not gonna believe it. Eric, he asked me to prom. For real. Elizabeth was standing at the kitchen sink. She didn't move for a long beat, then she turned, her eyes narrowed into two jagged slits. That boy, the one with the wandering eyes, her voice was a low, dangerous hum. Prom is nothing but a den of sin, Angela. I didn't raise you to be another lamb for the devil to slaughter. Mom, please, just listen. Angela's voice went high and desperate. I'm 17. I'm not a child anymore. I just want one night to be normal. There is no room for sin in this house. Elizabeth's face contorted, her voice breaking into a jagged sob. You've let the rot in. You need to repent before it takes your soul. Before Angela could even move to run, Elizabeth's hand shot out like a trap. Her fingers dug into the meat of Angela's arm, bruising the skin as she dragged her down the narrow hallway toward the closet under the stairs. Mom, stop. You're hurting me. Elizabeth didn't answer. She just grunted with the effort, shoving Angela into the dark, cramped space. The door slammed shut, followed by the heavy, metallic click of the deadbolt. Mom, open the door. Let me out. Angela screamed, her fists drumming against the wood until her knuckles bled. The screaming didn't stop because Angela gave up. It stopped because Margaret started to chant. For the mouth of the wicked and the mouth of the deceitful are opened against me, Elizabeth bellowed. Her voice wasn't just loud, it was a rhythmic, terrifying thunder that made the very air in the closet vibrate. They have spoken against me with a lying tongue. Angela shrieked in terror inside the pitch-black space, the scent of old coats and mothballs choking her. On the other side of the thin wood, Elizabeth leaned her forehead against the door, her eyes rolled back. Her chanting grew faster, a frantic, sonic wall of scripture that turned the hallway into a sanctuary of madness. They compassed me about also with words of hatred. Elizabeth's voice drowned out her daughter's cries until the only thing left in the house was the sound of the word, weaponized and suffocated. Chapter 3. The Slow Burn. The Closet of Conversion. The darkness in the closet was absolute, pressing in on Angela until she could barely draw a breath. She slumped against the back wall, the rough wood snagging her shirt. Let me out. Mom, this isn't fair. Think about what you've done. Elizabeth's voice came through the wood, muffled but sharp, distorted by the narrow hallway. Ask for forgiveness. I will not stand by and watch you destroy yourself. Not while I have breath in my body. The air grew hot and thin. Angela squeezed her eyes shut, but it didn't matter. It was just as dark with them open. On the other side of the door, her mother's voice rose and fell in a low, frantic mumble of scripture, sounding like a dark tide hitting the shore. In that suffocating silence, the memory of Eric's smiles started to feel like a dream, something that didn't belong to a girl like her. All she could hear were the words her mother had drilled into her bones. Sin, punishment, repent, Time stopped making sense. It could have been an hour or half the night before the lock finally turned with a heavy, metallic clack. The door swung open, and the dim hallway light blinded her. Elizabeth stood there, her face a mask of exhausted devotion. "I hope the devil is finally out of you." Angela didn't fight. She didn't scream. She just tipped forward, collapsing into her mother's arms, her face wet with tears. "Mama, I am saved," she whispered, her voice flat and hollow, like a recording. "I am saved. I am saved." Elizabeth pulled her in, hugging her so tightly Angela could feel her mother's heart thumping. "Yes, Father God, my daughter is saved." But Elizabeth couldn't see Angela's eyes. Behind the tears, Angela wasn't saved. She was focused. The closet hadn't crushed her. It had turned her heart into a stone. She was going to that prom. She was going to see Eric. And she was going to get out of this house, no matter what she had to do. Track practice. The crash. Courtney stood at the starting blocks, her heart hammering against her ribs like a trapped bird. The coke was peaking, turning the track into a blinding, overexposed white, while the liquor made her stomach lurch with every breath. She took off at a sprint, but halfway through the curve, her lungs hit a wall. She stumbled, doubling over and coughing until her chest burned. "I don't know what the hell has been going on lately, Courtney," Coach barked, hovering over her with a clipboard. "You used to run this track like you had a motor in your ass. Now you're out here moving like a grandma with a hip replacement. Get it together." Courtney swiped a hand across her face, frantically wiping sweat and a stray speck of white powder from her nose. "I'm gonna get it together, Coach. I promise," she wheezed, not meeting his eyes. "Just a cramp. I'm good." She retreated to the locker room, the heavy door thudding behind her. Once she was locked in a stall, her hands shaking, she cracked open a miniature bottle of vodka and let the burn settle her nerves. The forbidden kiss. The windows were already beginning to fog, blurring the streetlights outside into soft, yellow smudges. Zarya pulled back, her breath hitching as she tried to catch her bearings. "We need to stop, Eric. For real," she whispered, her voice shaky. "If Kelly finds out about this, she's not just gonna be mad. She'll actually ruin my life. She's supposed to be my best friend." Eric didn't pull away. He leaned in closer, his forehead resting against hers. "I don't care about Kelly, Z. I'm tired of playing along with her. I want you. I wish we could just move without her breathing down our necks every 5 seconds." Zarya looked at him, the guilt warring with how much she wanted to stay. "Me too," she breathed. They leaned back in, the kiss deeper and more desperate this time. They didn't see Whitley standing by the gym doors in the distance. She stood frozen for a second, her jaw practically hitting the pavement. Then, a slow, wicked smile pulled at her lips. She wasn't just shocked, she was inspired. She finally had the one thing that could bring the whole kingdom down. Cheer practice, the roast of Whitley. Tiara and Kelly sat on the top bleacher, completely ignoring the rest of the squad. Tiara was leaned over, stretching her hamstrings while scrolling through a horror blog on her phone. "I'm gonna look like such a badass bitch on prom night," Kelly said, checking her reflection in her phone screen. "My dress is gonna be the talk of the school for the rest of the year. Every other girl in that gym is gonna look like a background extra. Period, sister," Tiara said, not looking up. "But don't think you're outdoing me. I was watching Prom Night last night, the 1980 original with Jamie Lee Curtis, not the 2008 remake. That shit was ass on my soul. Pure cinematic garbage. I'm going for that classic Scream Queen vibe, but I had to black girl magic it up a little bit. I'm doing it in silk. As long as you don't look better than me," Kelly snapped. "I can't have my bitches looking like a mess before or after our plan." "What plan?" one of the younger cheerleaders asked, overhearing from a few rows down. Kelly's head snapped around like a predator. "Mind your business before I mind your dental records for you, you nosy cow. Whitley approached then, looking shaky. Kelly, I gotta tell you something. It's huge tea. Bitch, I said not now. Kelly groaned. And by the way, I saw that ugly ass throwback you posted of me on Facebook. You thought that was okay, you little thrift store whore. Whitley blinked, startled. I thought the picture was cute. I don't give a fuck if you posted it on OnlyFans or Pornhub, Kelly hissed, standing up. You had the audacity to post a photo of me with braces before I went through puberty? You trifling, snaggle-toothed little cunt. Get out of my sight before I make you look like a before picture permanently, you $2 asshole. Tiara doubled over, biting her lip to keep from howling as Whitley turned and ran off, sobbing. God, I love you, Tiara wheezed, wiping a tear from her eye. But one day that girl is gonna find her spine and fuck you up, sister. Kelly just rolled her eyes and sat back down. That bitch isn't going to do anything but follow me. I'm inspiring, Tiara, but I'm definitely not tiring. The dark room, red silence. The dark room smelled of vinegar and cold chemicals, the only place in school that didn't reek of desperate perfume. Ashley stood in the dim, red glow, watching a photo of the gym rafters materialize in the tray like a ghost. The door slammed open, spilling a blade of white light. Whitley stood there, her face blotchy from Kelly's earlier roasting. She was vibrating with a bitchin', frantic energy, clutching her phone like a weapon. I've been looking for you everywhere, you freak, Whitley snapped, her lip curling. I saw something by the theater wing. I have proof that Zaria is. Ashley didn't even turn around. She lifted a dripping print with metal tongs, the chemicals clicking against the plastic like slow blood. Whitley, you're breathing on my negatives. Move before I make you. Don't talk to me like that. I'm trying to tell you something huge. Whitley stepped closer, her sneer returning. You're so busy playing with your little chemicals, you don't even realize your best friend is a backstabbing whore. Zaria and Eric are. Ashley finally turned. Her face was a mask of dead-eyed calm that made the words die in Whitley's throat. She stepped into Whitley's bubble, the cold scent of Fixer overwhelming the room. Whitley, Ashley's voice was a low, jagged crawl. I have one more day to make sure the pulley system doesn't snap and kill us all. I don't care who Zaria is fucking. To me, you're just background noise in the movie that's about to get very, very R-rated. She leaned in, her eyes reflecting the red light like a predator's. Go find someone who's still living in a teen drama. I'm already in the sequel. Get out. Whitley froze, the tea suddenly feeling like a death sentence. She scrambled backward and fled into the hall. Ashley didn't blink. She just turned back to her photos, a hollow smile tugging at her lips. The plan was moving, and she was the only one who had the full picture. The hallway, the broken girl. Zaria was leaving the dance studio, the smell of floor wax and sweat still clinging to her, when she saw Angela slumped against a locker. She was curled into a ball, the sound of her weeping echoing down the empty, fluorescent lit hallway. What's wrong? Zaria asked, stopping a few feet away. Angela's head snapped up, her face blotchy and eyes raw. Why do you even care? She spat, her voice harsh and defensive. Because you just got asked to prom by the most popular guy in school, Angela. I thought you'd be happy or whatever. Oh, I get it, Angela said, wiping her nose with her sleeve. So you're allowed to talk to me now that your master isn't around? Where's evil Kelly? Is she hiding in the bathroom waiting to jump out? Zaria felt her face heat up. First of all, I have a mind of my own. I don't need Kelly's permission to speak. Then start using it and stop being a follower, Angela hissed, pulling herself up. You're just a bully who's better at hiding it behind a pretty face. You're no different than her. Zaria reached out, her hand hovering near Angela's shoulder, but she froze. Angela's sleeve had slipped up, revealing deep, jagged cuts and dark, angry sores littering her arms. They weren't from a fight, They looked like they came from something much darker. "Is everything okay at home, Angela?" Zarya asked softly, her voice dropping. Angela scrambled back, her eyes going wide with pure terror. She looked like a trapped animal. "Please, just leave me alone. You guys already pick on me every day. I don't need a fake therapist. If Kelly were here, you wouldn't even look at me." Angela wiped her eyes with a shaky hand and stood as tall as she could, her voice trembling but determined. "But I'll be at that prom. I'm going. I'll have my head held high, and there's not a damn thing you or your friends can do to take that from me." The group chat, unhinged energy. The screen was a mess of 5 different windows. Tierra was laid out in a silk bonnet, aggressively crunching on hot Cheetos. Ashley was just a silhouette in a room glowing with purple LEDs, and Kelly was staring into her camera through a thick, white face mask. "Who keeps blowing their nose?" Zarya snapped. "It's loud as hell." Courtney's window shook as she sniffled, her voice sounding thick and nasally. "My bad. I think I'm getting sick." Tierra stopped chewing and stared into the lens, unblinking. "Bitch, you've been sick for months. You back on that white girl powder?" "Because my auntie was a straight-up crackhead and I know the symptoms." "You got that I'm about to sell my TV for a fix?" Look in your eyes. "Tierra, first of all, I don't do crack," Courtney yelled. "And second, mind your damn business." "Your business is my business, sis," Tierra muttered, licking red dust off her thumb. Courtney exploded into a fast, angry string of Spanish cuss words, her hands waving wildly. "Keep it up," Tierra said. "Wait until I start my Spanish 2 class next semester. You won't be able to hide behind that Rosetta Stone bullshit forever." "Guys, shut up," Zarya cut in, her face getting close to the screen. "I saw Angela today. She was crying and she looked abused. Like, really bad. She had sores all over her." "Oh my god," Ashley whispered from the dark. Kelly just rolled her eyes, her face mask cracking as she spoke. Please. The bitch is probably just a cutter looking for attention. Either way, I already got the pig blood for the prank. It's sitting in my garage." "That ain't right, Z," Tierra whispered, her playful mood dropping. "Pranks can turn real scary, real fast. What if something actually happens? What if she's truly hurt at home?" Courtney, loyal to Kelly even while high, raised an eyebrow. "It's just a prank, Tierra. Don't be a buzzkill." "We're doing this," Kelly said, her voice cold and final. "No dropping out now, Z. I'll see you bitches tomorrow." The looming shadow of Friday, Hollow Creek High was loud as hell. Between the neon prom posters taped over every locker and the girls rehearsing TikTok dances in the halls, the energy was vibrating at a fever pitch. Everybody was obsessing over corsages and limo rentals, completely oblivious to the fact that the plan was already in motion. Beneath the glitter and the cheap hairspray, things were about to get ugly. 7 p.m. The fuchsia dress. Zarya stared at her reflection. The fuchsia fabric was loud, too bright for how sick she felt. She looked like a dream, but her hands were shaking so hard she could barely zip the side of the dress. "Zarya, hurry up. Damn," Courtney yelled from the living room. Summer Walker was thumping through the house, the bass vibrating the floorboards and drowning out Zarya's head. When Zarya walked out, the room was a mess of curling irons, loose glitter, and open makeup palettes. Kelly sat in the center of it all, looking perfect and acting like it. "You're really wearing that?" Kelly asked, side-eyeing Courtney's skirt. "You look like a cupcake threw up on you, babe." The girls all barked out a laugh. Zarya forced herself to join in, but it felt fake and thin. "But for real, Z," Kelly said, her eyes suddenly locking onto Zarya's like a hawk. "You're solid on the blood thing, right? Don't tell me you're about to go soft on me now." Zarya hesitated, her stomach doing a slow roll. It's a lot, Kelly." "I don't know. It's a joke," Ashley piped up, not even looking up from her eyeliner. It's gonna be iconic. Plus, that bitch has it coming after the stunt she pulled in the gym. Zarya took a shaky breath and looked at the group. She couldn't be the one to break the circle. Yeah, fine, I'm in. Courtney reached behind the couch and hauled up a heavy white bucket. The lid was loose, showing a thick, dark crimson liquid that smelled like chemicals and metal. Time to go. Courtney grinned. Let's go give this girl some blood. The final walkout. The sun was almost gone when Zarya's mom walked in, her face lighting up. Zarya, honey, you look breathtaking. Thanks, Mom, Zarya muttered, avoiding the mirror. Just remember, Miss, Sterling said, tucking a loose hair behind Zarya's ear. Be kind tonight. Prom is about making good memories, not getting even. The words felt like a punch to the gut. Zarya couldn't even look her in the eye. It's showtime, Kelly shouted, already strutting toward the door. Who's ready to make history? The girls moved as a pack, loud and shoving, but Zarya trailed at the back like a ghost. The limo, blood and bass. The limo was a neon-lit cage of strobes and distorted bass. Sexy red pounded through the speakers, drowning out the quiet dread Zarya couldn't shake. Kelly sat center stage, pouring tequila into plastic cups with practiced, steady hands while Tiara recorded a TikTok, her middle fingers up and a predatory grin caught in the camera flash. Pass that shit back, Courtney yelled, taking a shot like it was water. She was already vibrating, her head thumping against the leather in time with the beat, her eyes wide and glassy. Ashley leaned forward from the shadows of the back seat, her voice cutting through the bass like a wire. The bucket is secure, Kelly. I rigged the pulley in the theater loft during the pep rally. One pull on the signal, and the bitches drowned. Kelly raised her cup, the neon pink light reflecting in her eyes like a cold fire. To Angela, let's give her a night she'll never forget. To Angela, they roared, their voices clashing with the music. As the limo lurched into the school lot, a heavy, metallic scent wafted up from the floorboards, a thick, raw smell like a slaughterhouse that the expensive air fresheners couldn't hide. They had been sitting in the stench of that pig blood for 20 minutes, and now it felt like it was staining the back of their throats. The neon felt too bright, the air felt too thin. The limo hissed to a stop. Outside, the red carpet was out and the cameras were flashing. Kelly snapped her clutch shut, the sound like a gunshot. Showtime. They stepped out as a polished, beautiful unit. Courtney tripped over her own heels, screaming that the night was going to be legendary, but Zarya just stood there on the pavement for a second. Her fuchsia dress felt heavy and wrong. The gym looked like a fairy tale, but all she could think about was the bucket hanging in the dark rafters, and how fast the night was about to bleed out. Chapter 4, The Night of the Crimson. The Breakout. Angela stood in the dim light of her room, the vintage silk cool against her skin. Her heart was a frantic drum in her chest. Eric was coming. This wasn't just a dance, it was her jailbreak. Angela, get down here right now. Elizabeth's voice sliced through the house, jagged and high. Angela peeked through the door crack, seeing her mother pacing the hall with a Bible clutched like a weapon. I'm going, Mom. Just let me have this one night. You think you can just prance out of here like a harlot? Elizabeth spat, her eyes wild. You're walking straight into the mouth of hell. I'm 17. I want to actually live for once. Angela screamed, years of being terrified finally snapping into anger. She didn't try the front door. She knew her mother was faster. Instead, Angela bolted for the hallway closet, slammed herself inside, and shoved the heavy bolt home. For the first time in her life, she was the one locking the door. She scrambled up the coat racks and squeezed through the narrow crawl space window. The cool night air hit her face, smelling like rain and freedom. Her phone buzzed in her waistband. Eric, out front. You ready? Angela dropped to the grass, her knees stinging as she hit the dirt. She grabbed her heels, wiped the mud off her palms, and ran for the porch. When she opened the front door from the outside, she was breathless, her hair a mess, but she was glowing. "Ready for the best night of our lives?" Eric asked, looking at her like she was the only girl in the world. Angela nodded, stepping into the night, completely oblivious to the fact that she was walking straight into a slaughter. The arrival, the Trojan horse. The heavy double door swung open, and the humid gym air hit them. Angela stepped inside, her fingers digging into Eric's arm. She looked like something out of an old film, all vintage lace and soft edges. For a heartbeat, the music seemed to dip as heads turned. Nobody expected the weird girl to show up looking like a legitimate contender for the crown. "Oh my God, Angela!" Kelly was there in seconds, her smile so wide it looked painful. "You look incredible. I am obsessed with that dress. Where did you even find it?" Zarya stood a half step behind her, her face stiff. "You look great, Angela," she managed, though the words felt like they were getting stuck in her throat. Angela's eyes were glassy with hope. She looked around the room, taking in the lights and the people who weren't laughing for once. "Thanks, guys. I really didn't think I'd feel this welcome. I was so nervous." "Don't be silly, babe. You're with us tonight," Kelly said, looping her arm through Angela's and practically steering her toward the center of the dance floor. Angela glanced back at Eric. He gave her an encouraging nod, a small, guilty smile playing on his lips. For the first time in her life, the crushing weight in Angela's chest was gone. She felt seen. She felt invincible. She had no idea she was being led straight to the kill zone. The peak, the blur. The DJ dropped the bass, and the room shifted into a hazy, bruised purple. Everything felt too fast and too loud. The blur. Courtney was tucked into a dark corner of the bleachers, tipping a flask back until she choked, her eyes glazed and bloodshot. In the center of the floor, Tiara was owning a dance circle, her movements sharp and jagged, looking like she was ready to go to war instead of a dance. Justin hovered at the edge of that circle, his jaw set tight. He wasn't there to dance. He was patrolling like a bodyguard who knew the roof was about to cave in. He could feel the energy in the gym curdling, becoming something ugly. He reached out, his hand catching Tiara's waist for a split second to steady her, his voice barely a whisper over the thumping bass. "T, something's wrong. We need to go now." But Tiara didn't hear him, or she didn't want to. She just kept spinning, her eyes locked on the stage. Up in the shadows of the rafters, Ashley moved like a ghost. She wasn't smiling. She just sat there with a coil of rope in her lap, watching the strobe lights hit the crowd below, waiting for the signal. On the floor, Kelly was draped over her date, but her eyes never left Zarya. She caught Zarya's gaze and let out a slow, sharp wink. Zarya tried to mirror the look, but as the red strobe hit her face, she looked like she was about to be sick. The energy in the gym was off, high-pitched and frantic. Angela was right in the middle of it, spinning in Eric's arms. Her vintage lace was glowing under the black lights, and she was actually, genuinely laughing. She looked beautiful. She looked like she finally made it. She had no idea her heels were planted right on the duct tape X hidden under the glitter. The fatal fall. "Now," Kelly whispered, her eyes wide and fixed. "Do it now." The bass in the room was so loud it felt like it was bruising Zarya's ribs. 3, 2, 1. The buckets tipped. Because Eric was leaning in to whisper something in Angela's ear, the flood of thick, black-red pig blood slammed into both of them. It wasn't like the movies. It was heavy and hot, smelling like a raw butcher shop. "What the? I can't see," Eric gasped, clawing at his face, the gore dripping off his chin in thick strings. Justin lunged forward, his protective instinct overriding the shock. He didn't see who tipped the buckets, but he felt the heavy, hot weight of the chaos. As the gore sprayed, he tried to reach for Tiara through the red mist. Then, The power grid gave out. The overhead lights didn't just flicker, they exploded in a rain of white-hot sparks. The gym went pitch black before the fire alarm kicked in, a rhythmic, metallic shriek that pierced everyone's eardrums. Beep, beep, beep. The room turned into a meat grinder. 500 kids screamed at once, a massive wave of bodies surging toward the narrow exits. It was a total stampede. In the dark, Angela lost it. Blinded by the copper-tasting blood, she tried to lunge away from Eric, but her heels hit the slick floor. She didn't just slip. She launched forward. Her forward slammed directly into the sharp, reinforced steel corner of a stage equipment trunk. The sound, a wet, hollow crack, was louder than the alarm. She flipped over the edge of the stage, her body limp before she even hit the ground. She landed in a heap on the hardwood, her neck twisted at an angle that no human body should ever be in. The getaway, shadows and lies. The gym was a screaming vacuum behind them. Kelly shoved the heavy stage curtains aside, leading them through the rear loading dock. The air outside was freezing, but they didn't stop to breathe. Within seconds, they were piled into Kelly's car. Tiara slammed it into gear, the tires screeching as she tore out of the lot just as the first sirens began to wail in the distance. Inside the car, the silence was worse than the screaming. The air was thick with the copper stink of the blood and the sickening, sweet smell of the vanilla body spray Kelly had reapplied right before the X was hit. The mix made Aria want to vomit all over her fuchsia silk. Ashley was folded into the corner of the back seat, her knees pulled to her chest. Her hands, the same hands that had rigged the pulley with such cold precision, were shaking so hard they were hitting the window with a rhythmic, hollow thud. "I saw it," she whispered, her voice sounding like it was being squeezed through a straw. "The light went out, but I had the night vision lens on the Canon. I saw her head hit the steel. I saw the way her eyes just went empty. It didn't look like a prank. It looked like a snuff film." "Shut up about the camera, Ashley," Courtney shrieked, her voice high and jagged with a drug-induced panic. She was frantically scratching at her arms, her pupils so wide they swallowed the color of her eyes. "This wasn't supposed to happen. We were just supposed to embarrass the bitch. Now I have blood on my grandfather's dress, and I can hear the bones snapping over and over again. My heart is gonna explode. I swear to God, it's gonna explode. We have to go back," Zaria choked out, her voice cracking. "We have to tell them. Kelly, this was your fucking fault. I told you it was too much." "Angela," the way her head hit, "oh my God." Kelly's head snapped toward her, the dashboard lights casting green shadows across her face. She was splattered in red-black streaks, looking less like a prom queen and more like a car crash survivor. "Shut the fuck up," Kelly hissed, her voice a low, vibrating blade. "You want to call the cops? Go ahead, Zaria. Ruin your life. Throw away college. Throw away everything. You think they're gonna care that you felt bad? You stood there. You watched. You're just as much of a murderer as the rest of us. You manipulated us." Zaria screamed, turning in her seat, her eyes wild with fury. "You used Eric. You just wanted to break her because you're a bored, pathetic bitch." Kelly lunged, her hand snapping out and clamping onto Zaria's jaw, her nails dug deep into Zaria's skin. "I didn't make you do a damn thing," Kelly snarled, leaning in until they were breathing each other's air. "You wanted to be us. You wanted to be legendary. Well, this is it. This is the price. If you open your mouth, I will bury you so deep Angela will look like the lucky one. Try me." Zaria didn't flinch. She grabbed Kelly's wrist, her grip like iron, and shoved the hand off her face. A dark red mark bloomed on her cheek. "Don't ever fucking touch me again," Zaria whispered, her voice dead and cold. "You think I'm scared of you? I've got nothing left to lose now. We're both going to hell, Kelly. I'm just deciding if I want to drag you there tonight or wait until tomorrow." Their eyes locked, pure, unadulterated hatred simmering between them. For a second, it looked like Zarya was going to go for Kelly's throat right there in the moving car. Tiara's eyes flickered to the rearview mirror, her knuckles wide as she pushed the car to 80, heading into the dark. Back at the school, the fire trucks were finally pulling in. To everyone else, it was a technical fire and a tragic accident in the dark. Nobody saw 5 girls slip behind a curtain, except for Eric. He was still in the gym, kneeling in the gore, his hands pressed against Angela's cold, wet skin. He was the only witness left, but as the sirens grew deafening, he realized the blood on his hands made him the only suspect. 2. The aftermath. Zarya was hunched over her bathroom sink, still in that ruined fuchsia gown. She looked like a car crash. She was scrubbing her hands so hard the skin was starting to weep, but she could still see the phantom stains of black-red pig blood under her nails. Her phone buzzed on the duvet, the vibration sounding like a gunshot in the quiet room. Unknown number. LMFAO, you really thought you did something, you basic ass follower. Did you hear that crunch? Sounded like a bag of chips. Karma is a bitch, but I'm a bigger one. Can't wait to see what you wear to the funeral. Hope it's not that hideous fuchsia rag. See you soon, Rumi, X. Zarya stared at the screen, her vision blurring. Her heart was thudding against her ribs, a dull, heavy rhythm. She let out a shaky, hysterical wheeze that was supposed to be a laugh. It's a prank, she whispered to the empty room, her voice sounding thin and pathetic. It's just some sick-ass kid from school trying to be funny. She blocked the number, her fingers trembling so much she almost dropped the phone. She shoved it deep under her pillow and buried her face in the covers, trying to block out the world. But every time she closed her eyes, she heard it, the wet, hollow crack of Angela's head hitting the steel. The darkness in the room didn't feel like a shadow anymore, it felt like a weight, pressing down on her until she couldn't breathe. The sink. 24 hours later, the news hit the local feeds like a gunshot. Accident at Hollow Creek High. Student deceased. Deceased. The word felt too clean, too polite for the way Angela's neck had looked when it snapped. In 5 separate houses, the permanent 5 were rotting in the dark, realizing that their lives as they knew them had ended the second that stage trunk hit her skull. Zarya was curled on her bathroom floor, her knuckles raw. She'd spent 3 hours scrubbing her skin with industrial bleach, but she could still smell the copper, the thick, butcher shop stink of the pig blood. She looked at her phone on the tile. She had blocked that X number the second she got home. She had watched the confirmation pop up, blocked. She'd deleted the thread. She told herself it was just some sick-ass prank from a kid who saw them running. Courtney was under her duvet, eyes bloodshot, listening to the house creak. Tiara was staring at her camera roll, her thumb hovering over delete all, her breath coming in jagged, sobbing hitches. Ashley sat like a statue in her window seat, watching a single crow on the power line outside. And Kelly, the queen, was hunched over her vanity, staring at her reflection like it was a stranger's. She still had a smear of dried, black Red Bull behind her ear that she'd missed in the shower. Her hands were shaking so hard her perfume bottles were rattling against the marble like chattering teeth. Buzz, 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 buzz. The phones went off at once, a synchronized scream in the silence. Zarya's heart did a sick roll. No, she'd blocked it. She grabbed the phone, her wet fingers sliding across the glass. The contact didn't have a number. It just said X. X? Blocked? Really? Z, you think a button can stop me? That's cute. You basic ass followers really thought you could just wash her off and go to sleep. X? But let's be real, the most tragic part of last night, you couldn't even come up with your own original prank. Pig's blood? Really? You're so desperate to be final girls that you had to rip off Stephen King? You girls aren't icons, you're just a low-budget remake. X? We need to have a little chat. Let's talk about 2022. Remember that year? The year you girls decided you were gods and everyone else was dirt? The year you started the fire that finally burned you last night? You've been messy for a long time. I've just been the one taking notes. Let's look at where the rot started. Roll film. A link glowed on their screens, bleeding a sickly neon light into their dark rooms. Zarya's stomach flipped. She didn't want to click it. She wanted to throw the phone out the window. But the curiosity was a parasite. As her finger hit the link, the white light of the screen expanded, swallowing her bathroom, turning the bleach-scented air into the drafty, Bible-heavy atmosphere of a house she hadn't visited in a year. End of chapter 1-4.